Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new Fireside Hang. So today I'm presenting, and we're having Sergey once again. Uh, so
Hello.
Sergey is very it's very used to come, like not because there's nobody else to come, but because he's always like cooking something new and bringing like new tooling, to Midnight. So he's a very valuable member of the community. So today he came to talk about another solution that he developed, a local DevNet to create applications on Midnight. So we are going to talk about it. We also have Idris. Uh, Maybe I can, yeah. I mean, people also know Idris, because you also present the Fireside Hang. So
Yeah,
yeah, they already know you. And today you're coming to talk about,
MCP.
okay, MCP, so a project that you're also working on. So we are going to talk about those two projects today. And we are going to learn a lot of things about Midnight and how to create applications on Midnight. So maybe for people who are new to the Fireside Hang and to Midnight in general, Sergey, if you want to introduce yourself in 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm Sergey. I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company called Brick Towers. And Brick Towers, we are building an app called Herbal. It's a long-term, it's a privacy-preserving saving solutions app. Well, we hope it's not only privacy-preserving savings app, but it's just a general savings app. So your future bank may hopefully on chain. And yeah, at the same time, we are very active on Midnight because Midnight enables privacy for applications, and we are working towards enabling it for Herbal.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I forgot to mention I am as well a Midnight Elite, which is a technical fellowship program of Midnight, and at the same time I help a lot people in the community with the Midnight related technology questions and tooling. We build infrastructure for Midnight as well. Well, we build it for ourselves, and then we also share it with the community, some useful toolings. And I'm also active in Discord chat, in Midnight Dev Chat. So if you have some issues, I'm very often helping people there. I do check forum, but a bit less frequently.
And on his free time, Sergey also runs and bikes and swims. So he's not only a brain, it's also like an athlete.
Yeah,
So,
true.
and Idris, if there are new people, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Idris Olubisi. I am on the DevRel team at the Midnight Foundation. I do everything education and also developer experience, particularly identifying toolings that are relevant in our ecosystem that could also help builders generally, and also identifying developers' pain points, how we can then connect them to a resource that can, help them even learn more about Midnight. I also mostly focus on the academic content, which you'll be seeing more and more going forward. And then, yeah, a lot of cool stuff, basically integrating with the developer ecosystem. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about things, to show you some of the things we'll be working on, and particularly within this, AI era that we have right now, and also how to intelligently get resources that is useful for you to build upon when you are interacting with Midnight or within the Midnight ecosystem.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's start with the first topic, that new tooling that Sergey created. So if maybe we can start a couple of minutes if you want to introduce what it does, like what kind of challenges it solves, and then I think you have a presentation for the tool.
Yeah, well, so the tool is about basically there's a problem which every developer going to be facing, is that you would like to develop, when you want to develop something on the Midnight, you need some environment to run your applications on. So Midnight is at the moment providing a preview network. Before it was testnet network, and these networks are constantly changing and updating, and I, as a developer, do not want to rely on some infrastructure which is not yet stable. So as the network is constantly evolving, especially towards mainnet launch, it's important to have something stable which works locally. So what we have actually built this already almost actually a year ago, when we were building our first hackathon C battle. We already faced that problem. Back then, the testnet was not very stable, and we had to find a solution for that. So what we did, we already had that already back then, but it was all part of the C battle repository, where we just run a set of required services for Midnight Network to be functional, and also being able to fund your wallet as well, which is also important when you want to build dApps on Midnight Network, because that you would need Dust to pay for the fees in the network. Do you see my screen? I'm wondering what's available. So you see the screen, okay?
Yeah, we can see it.
So what I will be showing to you is how to run this. So what this network is a set of services which you run in Docker containers. So you would need to have Docker engine installed on your machine, or you can also run the engine somewhere remotely, basically the way as you wish. So these Docker services are running in the Docker composition, which is called this Compose solution from Docker as well. It's a tool to run multiple Docker containers at the same time. So I actually, I forgot to run the presentation mode. Quickly. Yeah, so I hope you see it now better.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you.
So the minimal set of services which you need to run is a proof server, which is going to be generating zero-knowledge proofs. You will need an indexer, which is there to index. It's there to index transactions and also your wallet. It's also a standalone service, which is designed specially to be run in that mode, and also Midnight node, which is actually the node of the Midnight network itself. So let's start.
Regarding the proof server, I can see that's the one that you created, right? I see it's the Break Towers proof server.
Yeah. So
can you tell us the difference between this one and like the regular Midnight proof server?
So the regular Midnight proof server have some bugs which we had to fix, and we have actually created an issue for that in the proof server in the Midnight Ledger repository. But basically, it's not built for IRM64 architecture, so we had to rebuild it and republish it as our container on the proof server side. So it's basically just differently built, same proof server.
Okay.
So these set of services are currently confirmed to be working with the current today's latest latest release LACE, and the set of services, set of versions which are currently running on the preview network. Though preview network actually today have some issues. It's not working as required. So that's why this tool is absolutely must have for you to, if you want to develop already today. Yeah, now how do I exit this presentation mode? I will. So I have this repo being checked out, or actually we can even do checkout as well. Let me quickly prepare the link for that. So I have an empty repository. And I have just checked out that repository. You're going to see the link later in the video description, or maybe Sam's going to share it now in the screen. So first of all, I need to install all the required libraries. I hope the demo gods are not gonna break the experience.
They always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully the demo god is not around.
Yes, so as you see, I have no containers running. And when I do docker compose up -d, I have now just created required services and they're running. As you can see, well, you can check every service that is functional. A node should be producing blocks. Indexer should index those blocks. No errors expected. So as we see, everything looks like is fine. So I have all the services required, and then we can now switch to the LACE. So I have just installed LACE completely from scratch. Actually, have a look. Let's have a look. We can even remove it. So you actually trust that it's really the latest one. I hope I'm not going to now downloading it forever. All right. Yeah. Something is odd. All right, it's there. So now we are starting and creating a new wallet. I actually need to copy the seed phrases for the later use. I put them here, or let's just do the following. Let's say my seeds. If I put it, yeah, okay. I have those seed phrases copied. So now here's the question which is asked in this thing is whether we want to run it against preview network, which is a publicly facing network, and undeployed. So I'm going to run it against undeployed. Undeployed is a network ID of that standalone solution, sorry. And we're going to run it against the local proof server. All right, so now the wallet is synchronized. This is a good sign, so that the wallet, so you the synchronization with the wallet is an active thing, so that it actually provides the viewing key to scan the wallet, to scan the network for the transactions which your wallet should be seeing. That's important for the privacy. And now you have shielded and unshielded versions of the address. As you can see, it has undeployed name. But first of all, let's start with trying to fund this wallet with the seed. Because this seed, which was used for the creation of the wallet, this feature was not available before. And actually, none of the examples are using seeds. The seed phrase, the BIP39, I guess, seed phrase to fund. So what I will do. Now we run it from this tool, the command line with the funding. Now you see that with those seeds, those addresses were actually derived. And if you compare, for example, an unshielded address, I don't know, let's take last three letters, JH2, and it's also JH2 here. Oops. And now, as you can see, we were just being able to fund the wallet. So this was done in 30 seconds. Basically, when you provide the seed phrase in this fund call, what is happening is that you get at the same time two types of tokens. One is night, which is an unshielded token. And one is just a random sample shielded token with the token ID all zeros. This is just a sample token which you can use. And well, the currently it is set up to get 31,337. Basically, now you can generate dust with this night. And this dust, when you generate dust with this night, you actually can run contract calls on that network. So it's not possible to do that without dust, because dust needs to be paid for transactions. So you need to generate dust, and be aware that this generating dust might take time. So if you just fund and then immediately try to call a contract, it might not have enough dust to fund your wallet. What is also possible, you can also independently fund address with that tool. So I just copied an address, which is unshielded address. And I'm trying to fund my unshielded address. So there is a recognition piece, which is kind of checking what you have here as an input. And based on that, if it's a seed phrase, it derives those addresses. And if it's a valid address, it's going to be sending to that address. Now we see something is syncing. I hope it works. Yeah. Now you see we have 2 times more night in the wallet. So I'm not sure if you look at the code, it's pretty much readable. If not readable, you can feed this to any AI tool of your preference, and you're gonna see that it's very simple. It takes what it does, what is important to know. So when you start the undeployed network, this undeployed network has a Genesis wallet, which has a lot of night and which can be transferred further. So this night is being parked at the Genesis seed address, which is this special address with many zeros and 1 in the end. So this wallet is being used to fund tokens on the destination address. And then based on what you have in the input of the CLI, it's either sending you unshielded tokens or shielded tokens. So this tools is kind of the minimum with what you need to start using and writing dApps. Then next step, basically the last step. The last step is when you're gonna be writing your dApp, you would need to configure your dApp against the same node, the same network, which you run in the Docker. You can actually run multiple networks at the same time, but they will be completely separated anyways. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Maybe questions?
Oh, okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Let me check if we have any questions. I don't think so. No, I don't think there are any questions. Okay, so that was great. That's actually a very useful tool. So you don't depend on public networks, to test your code, and to create an application. Then you just have to update it, like to make it work on preview, on pre-prod. So yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Sergey. So and that tool, so I think we share the QR code, and it's available, right? The developers can download it, and it's available. Okay, great. So if there are no questions, we are going to listen to Idris and his MCP solution that he's been working on. Idris.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that, Sergey. I think one of the issues I ran into with a particular dev recently as regard to wallet syncing has been like the big deal. So seeing your wallet sync so fast, I'm guessing might probably need to tell the person to reinstall to get the latest list preview wallet. Maybe that would help. um Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And also, with that, you could easily just build your app locally and just focus on building instead of trying to debug why your testing is not working. So yeah, hi everyone. So in this session, I quickly want to talk about Midnight MCP. And so over the time, we've seen a lot of requests on interaction with AI and some of these clients that we have today. But then the truth is that Compact is a new language, and then it's TypeScript like, but it's not TypeScript. And then one of the common patterns that we've seen is that some of the code generated by AI gets mistaken for, sorry, Compact get mistaken for TypeScript. And even after trying to double check with AI returns with responses like, yes, this is correct, this should work. Meanwhile, it is completely referencing TypeScript. So how do we then fix all of those issues? And how do we make sure that you can get updated implementation from Compact, from Midnight, and also making sure that you can get an updated packages whenever you are building your application? So that's how the whole idea of Midnight MCP was born. So I'm not going to go to like what MCP are. MCP, I'm just doing an assumption here that you all know what MCP is all about these days, and majority of us have either used it or connected it to our cloud, or using Cursor, probably your Visual Studio Code, and you're using Copilot on it with your MCP. So but then one thing that I want to call out is MCP makes it simple for tool discovery. I think it's mostly used for tool discovery. It's called Model Context Protocol. And then you can find what then happens is that, let's say for example you connect Midnight MCP to any of your clients. A client here could be Cursor, Claude, ChatGPT, or any of these guys. Now, if there is a Midnight MCP connected, it means that you can query things directly using that MCP as a tool discovery interface to allow you to get data that is updated and data that you need for a particular solution. So what happens is that he doesn't just hallucinate or try to check internet for you. He make good use of those tools or the MCP itself that is available, and then combine it, try to do some computation, iteration through itself, and then return you with the updated implementation for that particular action. But then, yeah, I'm Idris Olubisi. But building on Midnight today, we have different things, and then we have the way we think about implementation, right? Some of the things we've also seen is that Compact as a programming language is quite new, right? And if you look at it's TypeScript like, but there are some implementation that are clearly not TypeScript, and that's something that is completely different from what you would normally see out there today. Let's say you're writing a Solidity code, you would see so many examples online already. Some of these models has already been trained with some Solidity examples. So but then when you are interacting with any AI tool, or when you're trying to build an application, Compact is pretty new, and we are rapidly like providing resources and also toolings that will help you all understanding better. Another thing is like the zero knowledge concept that comes with it, which is also new for a language. And so for you to just have it out of the box, so it's another thing to think about. It is a problem. And another one that we've also seen is that documentation. There's a lot of documentation. Our docs today has a lot of information. In fact, there's some information on the docs today that you might not be able to find until you try to query them. And then we also have docs on individual repos that are public, where you could read about things and learn about all of these things generally. And the last thing we also identify is that developers spend hours searching for examples and trying to find how they can implement the right way, or probably just trying to find some inspiration on what to do. But then the solution here is obviously like clearly simple, having the Midnight MCP, which is the model context protocol server. And what this does is that for this particular MCP, it gives Claude, Cursor, VS Code, or any client that you are using direct access to Midnight knowledge. So Midnight knowledge in this case is everything about the docs, releases, project implementation, contracts, versioning, all of those things. It gives your client access to them generally. Also, another thing is that it's help you. The way this implementation is built is that it's set across 102 today. We currently index over 100 plus repos, right? This include our partner repos, Open Zeppelin repos, our current Midnight implementation. So that way, the MCP is somehow intelligent enough to instruct the agent to find what it needs for a particular action. Before I move on to like the analyzing contract, the search is also very important because it's not matched to something. It makes your search smarter and also up to date to like latest implementation. Another one I want to talk about here is the analyzing contract before you even compile. Today, we have there's an improvement to add something like pre-compilation, like creating an environment within your client itself to always compile the contract before it's given to you. But today, what we have on the MCP is just to analyze the contract. So there are some sampling that has already been embedded into the MCP that could be trained on the contract implementation itself. Then finally, we have it generates, review, and documents the code itself with AI. So when the code is generated, it doesn't just give you the code. Like there's also an explainer on these code blocks just for you to be sure of what is happening. And of course, if that explainer is not enough, you can just directly, chat with it, and then you chat through your clients with the MCP, and then it just works out of the box. So, what is inside the MCP today? We have 21 tools. Tools like searching, analyzing, generating, versioning. Versioning is very important because some implementation, things changes rapidly. We are shipping every now and then, more releases, more updates. So versioning is also a critical part that this MCP understand very well, to understand what works within your current version, and then what won't work with the new releases. All of those things are aligned here. And then we have the 9 resources for embedding docs, syntax guide. You don't really have to do anything with this. I'm just showing you what is inside the MCP itself. And then we have just 5 prompts today that help you either create, review, explain, compare, or debug a particular contract. And of course, over 100 plus repo have been indexed already, um, just to make sure that the MCP understand implementation correctly without any assumption. So the key features I'm really proud of, sharing with you all is the semantic search. Right, I was blown away with the results, which I'm also going to be showing briefly, with this semantic search, because there's implementation that is tied to a vectorized DB. If you look at the code, it's tied to a vectorized DB in a way that it is smarter enough for you to just search things not by keyword, but saying something like show me a private token transfer, and then it looks at the repo, finds the private token transfer, and then intelligently the clients interact with it and intelligently come back with something that you're looking for, because it's not like the generic MCP you see out there that is mapped against some specific keywords. And if you don't say those keywords, then you won't get a result. The other part is another feature here. It has like static analysis to check and catch errors before compilation, just to be sure that before it gives you a contract or an explanation, it could verify by itself. So you understand the deprecating syntax, mixing exports, wrong formatting, all of these things under the hood. Then we have the AI generation part, where you could generate from plain English. Obviously, if you're interacting from Claude or any of these clients, those are like plain English interaction, and then it converts that. It's also reviewed for security. Obviously, we are still rolling out more and more implementation. And I mentioned this earlier on, it auto document things as you get it. So how does the installation work? It's very easy, just the way you would configure any MPC server today. MCP server, MCP server today, right? Pretty much the same way you add the command and then you add the argument. So you don't need any implementation. But if you clone the project locally, if you want to run the project locally, you might have to specify if you need the semantic search. If you don't need the semantic search, if you clone the project, you can run and be good with it. But if you need the semantic search, then you need to put your open API key and a ChromaDB URL, because that will be an equivalent of the intelligent part of the MCP. But without it, you can also use it. But just for you to be smarter with search, then you need to add, those credentials. But this is how you would generally just implement it from anywhere today. It works with Cursor, Claude, VS Code, Copilot, WinSub, all of these clients basically, and you find the detailed documentation on the README. So if you are interested, you can scan this QR code. I think you have also seen a QR code on the screen already. It's the same place. You direct you to the same place to see how this is going to be tested out. So let me. I don't know. Is there any question before I try to demo, Claude?
I don't see any question in the chat. There is a question. Any suggestions to use compact on this? Is that something you're going to demo now? Or?
Oh, to use compact.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Like compact is the default, at least this is built particularly with compact in mind.
Mhm.
And then of course compact also extends to, we have midnight JS SDKs and all of that. We'll continue to add all of these things that help you build the front end, right? So yeah, obviously compact, it's built with compact in mind. Yeah.
Okay, there's also a question about React. Using React, maybe to generate some React code from the MCP that you can use to build an application.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It supports Midnight JS. The interesting thing is that if you want to build any front-end application today, any client can undo that without any MCP because that is not compact. But the good part is that it understands Midnight JS. It has already indexed Midnight JS repo. So when you want to build a front-end application, apart from the fact that the client understands React, Vue, or any of these front-end, the with this MCP, it then understands which Midnight JS SDK it needs to set up on the front end to help you connect with Lace Wallet, to do all of these things, and then you can, just go in and implement.
Okay, perfect.
I have a question actually.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
you
please.
said
Right.
it needs some ChromaDB and the OpenAI key
Mhm.
for certain features. But how does it work? Like, so when I type something and my agent decides to use MCP, so
Yeah.
what's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question. So you don't need ChromaDB and OpenAI if you just want to use it out of the box. It has already been set up. So where you then need the ChromaDB and OpenAI keys when you want to run this particular MCP locally. So when I mean locally, maybe when you clone the project, right, and you want to test the project yourself. What you just need to use this today is just this guy that I mentioned here. Sorry, let me go back. So what you need today to run this right now is just this, right? But then when you want to clone the GitHub repo itself and you want to test the repo itself, that's when you need the OpenAI and the ChromaDB. So, but then that's also splitted into two, right? You can decide not to use it. So when not to use it is when you don't care to use it, if you don't have anything related to search. If you just want an explainer, you want like a simple voting contract, you just want a generic thing. I already have like some templates that can guide your current MCP, that cloned version that you clone to understand those things. But when you now need to do things like searching, so let me explain. Like today, you have some MCP, like majority of MCP you have today is mapped against something. Let's say Stripe MCP, for example. Stripe will tell you to enter their like your Stripe key when you are configuring it. And that is because they now want to give you access to things like transaction, things like card payments, and all of those things they currently provide. So what the MCP does for them is it is mapped against those actions with a prompt already specified that when a user wants to set up card payments, you should fetch information from this endpoint, which is on their docs, right? But in our own case, we want to make it smarter enough that the system understands the entire compact ecosystem. So that way, you don't need to map it to something. All you just need to do is to expose the entire repo or the entire knowledge base to the MCP. Then how do you then do that? The fastest and the smartest way to do that is to vectorize it. So what the Open API key is doing for you is that it's creating an embeddings. There's this model called, I think it's a model 4 mini for embedding. It's a very light model. All it does is to embed, like convert your text to numbers and then vectorize it. That's all. So once you vectorize that number, it matches against what is already been indexed. Because what is currently indexed is also indexed as a vector. Currently, today, I'm using Cloudflare to index this particular data. So what the system does is whenever you search from your client and say, hey, I want to maybe write me a voting contract, for example, and then the system gather information from all of the samples, and then the system needs to also understand that, oh, has there been any changes to versioning? Oh, maybe I need to check the docs. You don't have to do that. The agent will be doing that by itself. I need to check the docs. Then now it is not mapped against anything on the docs. It is just going to the docs and then check what matches what it needs at the time. And how do you then check? Because the search is already being changed as an embedding, as a vector. It then use that vector and then match it against what is already indexed. If it finds any related information, it brings it back, decodes it, and then check if it's accurate. If it's not, it goes back again and search, and you'll be seeing those search interaction on your client as it's going back and forth just to verify all of this information. So that's the clear difference. You don't have to use Open API or the ChromaDB. So the ChromaDB is the free version of Cloudflare vectorized that you need to set up on the cloud. ChromaDB is just an image that you can pull from Docker and then just install it locally. So it does the same, process. But I already handled that. So what everybody needs here is just to use this setup, and then the system understand what everything else that is happening under the hood. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So I don't know, Claude, are we good? Maybe I can move on and test some things. Maybe we can get to questions.
I think we're good. Dean's, I don't know if there are any other questions, but maybe it would be nice to have a demo and not see
Yeah.
it in action.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I would get to, if you have any questions, I'll get to it. But yeah, this is a demo. I'm using Claude here, right? And you can see I have my Midnight MCP
Can we
active already.
reference it to Claude AI? I don't like I'm using Claude. Like.
Oh my God, sorry. I'm sorry about
I'm
that.
joking.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'm using now I can get that. Sorry. Yeah, I'm using Claude AI here as the client. So you can use the MC, you can use your cursor, you can use I also have it configured on my VS Code Copilot, so it's very easy nowadays to configure MCP. You can find any of these tutorials. In fact, you can even ask your client on how to configure it. And if you look at the MCP, the Midnight MCP README, you see, I think I have it here. You see the step-by-step guide here. You see the step-by-step guide on installations, what you need to do. So you see, there's even a add to cursor that you can just click, and then it opens up cursor and add it for you rather. And then the same thing with Windsurf. You can see all the installations here that you can go through. So I already did that. So the next thing I want to do, just to start from basics, to see how we would go from, the first thing we are going to try to test here is going to be MCP discover stuff by itself, right? So I want to say what Midnight development tool do you have access to? You can say I'm on Sonnet, like doesn't matter the module you have, the system just understand it. So now what it's doing is that it's checking the Midnight toolings that I mentioned earlier on, and then it's getting all of the tools that is available for me. This is not searching internet. This is primarily just searching what are some of the tools that are available. And then if you go down, you see search tools. It's telling you that there's a semantic search across compact contacts, and it lists out all of the toolings available. You can see this Midnight Search TypeScript is what is particularly built for SDK. So for the previous question about front end, this is what tracks SDK implementation by itself, right? And then we have the fetch docs. We have the analyzing tool that analyze contracts. We have the repo tool itself that has some examples from our repo. We have the versioning tools that check breaking changes, migration guide, syntax, latest syntax, all of these things that are very, very important to us as we are moving and changing things every now and then. And then it also has the generate tool that helps generate and review contracts out of the box. So you might be wondering, like, why do we have these tools? These tools just helps your clients find resources faster. So if you paste a contract and you ask a question like, can you help me review this contract? Instead of the client getting confused, the MCP getting confused at what do I need to do, it points the client directly to this tool, and then you calls this tool, then this tool then points to resources that helps review contracts alone. So that makes it easy for any of your search. And you can see other things that are there. Another thing I also want to check is, let's say you want to search for a particular tool. For example, you want to do a search tool where you can say, show me the search tool available for midnight. Then the system also then understand, oh, okay, particular related to search, what are some of the things available? Then you have the midnight search compact, where it says that it can find the circle definition, witness function, ledger, and best practices for smart contract. And it tells you like everything, including the search docs. So this particular tool in search, the official midnight documentation, is currently being indexed, and it understands anything there, including versioning, which is like a very important piece. And then we have like every other part there. So that's for discoverability, right? But then if you want to do, I think I've talked about semantic search already, but let's see that in action. So for semantic search, I can say, find me an example of private voting implementation in midnight contract. And then it just goes in. So this is peculiar to saying, oh, a voting implementation. Then what the system does is to try to search for an implementation that is related to voting or that could be aligned to voting, and then intelligently create your contract for you. So I'm going to allow this permission. It's going to search generally. And then now, from the example, it's saying it could create like, oh, he found two private example, the election contract, and then it explains like the structure for you, the state management, the ledger, where the vote commit circuit is, vote review circuit. It shows you some example you could find. I think this micro DAO contract is from one of our examples that we have. I think not on Midnight repo, but it's part of the repo that was indexed. So index, like, it has like multiple example and see patterns and get the one that actually works and the one that works correctly. Then if you now want to do things like documentation search, right? You don't want to start looking for things on the docs. You can also say things like, okay, I know witness, but I don't really know how it works. Please, can you explain how witnesses work in midnight? Then what it does, it calls the search tool for docs and then break down witness to you. If you notice something that this calls only one tool here and then return the response. This is not an assumption. This system is currently not hallucinating. It is pulling things from the source and then returning it to you. So in case you want to understand concepts, disclose, witnesses, all of these things that are quite different from every other programming language, you can just use this MCP as also a knowledge base, not just for code generation alone. And then it shows you some of the things that could be done. It gives you example on how it could be done, and also even lock in some contracts for you. So now you have this, and then it also shows you some implementation, important security, which you get pulled from the docs, right? But there's a part I also want to show you guys. I think we already know this could generate codes, but there's one for validating. So let's say you have the code, and then you want to be sure that at least it could work on first try. You don't want to go back and forth. Or sometimes the MCP itself points any of the client that you are using to any of these tools to validate contract before revealing it. So now I want to say, now analyze the contract. So I can't, let me tell it to just generate a simple contract, and then we tell it to analyze it. So even if you have an existing contract, you can paste it in and ask for analysis. It is going to search based on the pattern that is available within the Midnight repo, and learnings from the docs. Is searching from this different source that is already indexed. It's not internet based, it's just already indexed, and is mapping against it. And then now you can see the first thing that get called here is the search compact. Then it's trying to, now it has understand the search, the shielded deposit and withdrawal works. The next thing it's doing is to create a simpler version of that. And it's saying that it wants to check the micro contract, which is an example contract, to see how it's being implemented. And now it shows that it has all of the information that it needs to generate. So now, if you look at this, it's generating the contract. So you just need to wait. But if you notice one thing here, you can see the versioning also is also one big part of the code generation. So let's say tomorrow we release 0.18, what is, sorry, 0.19, for example. Because it's already indexed all of this repo that does versioning, it's easy for the client to pick the latest one. So for now, it has found all of the implementation that is using the version 16 and version 18. So it's very, very, this the system is very, very sure right now that this code is going to compile within this version. So let me allow this also. You can see the last thing that gets called is analyze contract. So even before giving you, it analyzes the contract against things like I think Claude, you've seen cases where some code generation shows const or var, things that are common in TypeScript. So what this last step two does is to analyze things align and is not written based off some of these things that do not actually exist in Compact. So after analyzing, it creates a comprehensive README for it so that you can understand the simple contract you just created. So I'm just going to wait for it. Then after that, we can do the analysis side if we are still not sure. So one thing is that sometimes when you generate code, because different clients varies and AI still have some level of hallucination. So if you generate code and probably you copy the code and try to run it and it does not compile for any reason, what you can do, if you can debug it directly, just go ahead and debug it. But if you want the help of the AI, you can then just come back and type in now analyze the contracts and then check things like syntax errors and all of that. It's going to call another tool that is already written internally, which analyze and extracts contracts based on the syntax available online and based on what it actually needs. So it's creating a quick reference guide right now. So let's just wait for it to be completed. But then it depends on the example. Sometimes could be faster. It depends on some example and what you need. So while this is generating, I don't know if we have any question. Okay, Sergey said, can this MCP replace me? Oh, God.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So my main yeah, I see a lot of code from developers, and it's true that one of the common issues is having some JavaScript stuff inside a Compact contract, but also people using
Yeah.
AI, and the AI generates zero knowledge contract for other blockchains. So that's something that MCP is something that's going to prevent it. It's never going to generate code for Mina or for other blockchains.
Yeah, exactly. For Alio, for zero knowledge blockchains generally. And if you also notice a pattern here, when he generated like the contract, of course, it's a compact contract. That's why you can't see this. It's not supported there. So there's the README to explain, but there's also like an explanation for individual code blocks that so it does not just generate and then give you and be like, oh, go figure it out. So it like generate and explain some blocks, some things that you need to understand, and the actions on those contracts. So should in case sometimes what the system generates is not really what you need, right? Maybe this implementation is not directly your use case, or you want to extend this implementation to your use case. So you can see how things are being done, how it has been implemented, and then you can modify it based on, all you need and how you want it to be. So even after this, if you're still not sure, then you can run things like, now analyze the contract. So what the system would then do directly is to call this tool called the Midnight Extract Contract Structure, because it's already been trained on some sample structure on how we write our standard contract, particularly for using using the Midnight repo itself as a knowledge base. So some of the codes that the engineering team already pushed, the ones that are live, the ones that are still, even the ones that are still in progress, because there's a versioning that exists here. The ones that are still in progress, the clients now understand it with this MCP that, oh, this is a pre-release tag, or this is an alpha version that might not be compatible. So let's not use that. Let's find something that is stable. Or if it checks like different repo and then realize that, okay, maybe it checks like the Midnight local network that Sergey just, mentioned, and he noticed that we have some alpha SDKs that's being used, for example, it will take that and compare with some other contract also and see similar implementation and then see what works and come back to you, right? To and come back to you with like the latest implementation. So you can see it is going back and forth by itself just to understand how things are being implemented, what is needed, and then go back again to get some files, come back again and ask you, oh, I need to do this. So these steps are quite important because should be like steps that you would want to do yourself manually. But now the system is not just giving you, but it's also doing research to make sure that there is an existing implementation and it can verify against that. So I'll let this complete. And so there are a lot of things that you could also do. An important part also is that if you want to learn Compact itself, apart from our documentation, while we have like the Compact documentation itself, if you want to learn just Compact, you don't want anything, just you can create a curriculum. You can tell your client to create a curriculum using this MCP, and it's going to point you to Compact resources step by step on how you can, learn Compact. And also some of the implementation, the pattern, it won't teach you a pattern that is version 14 and where we are already using 16 to 18. Right. So it will take you through all of these steps because the clients now perfectly understand things by default. So you can see there are some things that happened in between. So depending on the code that you implement, it's going to find a way to figure it out. So there are some cases that if it gives you code and it doesn't compile, obviously maybe you come back here. That's if you are using this Claude AI as the client, you're going to. But if you are using Cursor, for example, or you're using the code within Copilot, you won't need to do any copy and paste. It will just check by itself, verify, and return. So even if it documents something here and it does not work, you can still, recheck and then review the process. So despite writing the first one, it also identified that, deposits, that there are some things wrong with some other parts, and it verifies against it. Again, after some of this verification, you can see it's showing key learnings and all of that. After some of this verification, you still put in, and for some reason, your code does not compile, then it's easier for it to just pick it and check what exactly is missing. Sometimes it uses, so for example, I don't know if there's any code example here that I can reference, that I can see by just looking for maybe where there's any mistake. So should in case it uses type. Oh, okay, yeah. Should in case it uses a type that would never work, yes, or maybe that does not exist. Yeah.
There was a list of shielded coins, and that's not gonna work.
Coins. Yeah, exactly. So things like that, if you try to run it, because I'm using Claude AI as the client, right? I need to copy and paste, right? So, but if you are using Cursor or any of these integration directly in your code, then it is going to recheck that operation and retry it again. So finally, like there's a lot more. I can keep giving examples on things that you can do, but there's also something that you can also check, which is like a backup implementation, maybe citing like, the server status, the latest, what's it called? The latest syntax or the latest MCP server that you are currently using. If you notice during installation, let me go back to the deck. If you notice during the installation, we have this, and then you will notice this at latest, right? Because this is currently being developed, right? So if you install with this format, whenever you quit your server or for some reason your agent restart or anything like that, it picks up the latest implementation. You don't have to reinstall anything. All you just need to do once in a while is to either ask it the current version by saying current version, then probably it is going to tell you, like it's going to tell you what version of MCP it is using based on what has been released. So you said you are running the latest because I'm on 029. So there are some times that you might not be 029. Tomorrow you might have turned to like 0215 or something like that. And that's because it's still being worked on so many things to be added. And then, of course, one important thing that is also going to be added soon is inference, right? Inference in a way that the system can teach itself. So in a case where the method that you mentioned, Sergey, that won't compile, so this particular feature would handle that, gracefully, even better, right? So, and what the feature is called like inference in AI generally. So what is going to happen is that not really inference alone, but it's going to be like a self-taught process. So what that means is that whenever you run into an error, then the system is going to take that error and batch it into the vector back based on the pattern. So if you run into an error and you're trying to fix it and you end up fixing it, or you even tell it a particular thing that, nah, this is not going to work, this is the new one, and it verifies that, it is going to track that conversation and then batch it. But that is not implemented yet for inferencing and self-teaching, because it has to do with like permissioning. You have to grant the permission for it to train itself based on your chart. So as it is right now, nothing is exposed. Your keys are not exposed. Everything remains on your local environment. There's nothing exposed or saved anywhere on the server, and the code is also, public that you can verify. So more index to be repoed, enhanced AI generation capability, integration with Midnight compiler, which is the big part where it will do compilation itself. For now, it's using so many examples to test before it gives you the code. But the interesting part is if it could create a virtual environment itself and then compile the code before returning it, even though some of these clients do not support that yet. That is why this particular one is not implemented. And then, of course, academic curriculum integration. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The MCP is open and also open for feedback. You can create issue directly on the repo. You can create issue directly on the repo. You can send in PR. You can raise issues if you have any. You might run into errors, probably the ones that are not like code related. If it's environment related, let me know. I got a feedback from some guys using Cursor last week. For some reason, the way Cursor handles sampling is different from the way Claude AI handles sampling. So, and we're able to fix that because they tested with Cursor. I'm not using Cursor, so I only tested with Claude AI and the Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. So, in case you test with any other thing aside these things and you run into error, please feel free to create an issue and then let us know. We'll be happy to help. Yeah, over to you, Claude.
Perfect. Yeah, that's an amazing tool, and it's going to be very, very useful, to a lot of people. Okay, thank you very much, Idris. I
Yeah.
think we are at the end of this fireside hang. If you have questions, you can go to the forum or on Discord, and we'll be very happy to answer them. And yeah, that's it for today. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody who came and watched today. And yeah, see you around on the internet. Have a good
See
day.
you.
Take care.